I remember one time we was walking toward this little suburb, and Jesus starts one of these parabolas. He says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man discovered and hid, and from joy over it went and sold all that he had." I think maybe that went by a little fast for some of you. Let me see if I can put that in more contemporary terms. This fella kicking around in the field. We don't know why. It ain't got nothing to do with the story. While he's out there in the field, he stumbles across an incredible treasure. And he does what any semi-lostness person would do. He covers it back up. He don't tell no one. He goes down to the courthouse. He finds out who owns this field. Are you tracking with me so far? And then he goes to the owner of the field and he makes him an offer he hopes he will not refuse, if you catch my drift. He goes up to the owner of the field and says, "Sir, I have been interested in relocating. I noticed you got a really nice piece of property, and I'd like to make you an offer for that piece of property." And the owner of the field says, "Well, what do you got?" He says, "Man, I got $5,000 cash right here for your field." And the owner of the field says, "Well, good. Yeah, I'll take it." And the guy thinks to himself, "We'll see who gets took." Forks over the $5,000, starts to leave, and the owner of the field says, "Excuse me, what else have you got?" He says, "What do you mean? I thought we had a deal." "Well, not yet. What else have you got?" "You mean like the $35 in my pocket?" He says, "Yeah, that's the price of the field." The guy thinks, that's kind of sticking it to you. I mean, you know. But then he thinks about that treasure in the field and thinks, what's $35? He says, "Oh, kind of like closing cost, huh?" He says, "Sure." So he hands him the $35. He says, "It's been nice talking with you." The guy says, "I want to talk a little bit more. Tell me, what else have you got?" He says, "What do you mean, what else have I got? I mean, I'm tapped out. That's all the money I have." He says, "That's okay. Well, what else have you got?" He says, "You mean like my possessions? You mean like my stereo?" He goes, "Sure. It's the price of the field." The guy says, "You're out of your mind. That's a quadraphonic stereo." I mean, I sit back and have my mellow times with that stereo. You can't have my stereo. The guy says, "Hey, it's the price of the field." The guy sits there for a few minutes and he starts thinking in his mind. It drifts back to that treasure in the field. And it occurs to him that if that stereo is the thing that stands between him and that treasure, that stereo is going to sound really flat and scratchy from then on. You know what I mean? So he comes back to the owner of the field and says, "Okay, I mean, you know, I'm willing to sweeten the deal. I really like that particular field. You can have my stereo." And the owner of the field says, "What else have you got?" He says, "Are we related in some way?" You're kind of a shrewd businessman. I mean, maybe I showed too much interest here at the beginning, but I'm not that interested. He says, "Hey, you know, what else have you got?" He says, "You mean like my color TV?" He says, "Sure." He says, "You can't have my color TV." "Man, I mean, how would I fill my evenings if I didn't have my color TV?" But as he starts to walk out, his mind, it drifts back to that treasure on the field. And it occurs to him that if that TV is the thing that stood between him and that treasure, that TV was going to be the most boring piece of mechanics and electrical wires ever created. And who wouldn't want to give something like that away? So he goes back to the owner of the field with his hat in his hand, and he says, "You know, you really kind of got me over barrel hill. I really like that field, and you can have my TV too." He says, "Good. What else you got?" He says, "Hey, man, I'm tapped out. I mean, my possessions, my money, that's it. I mean, you have to settle there, I'm afraid." He goes, "Well, tell me, where do you live?" He says, "You're kidding. You see any birds nesting on this head? You see any flies hanging on this board? You think I'm going to trade you a house for an open field? What do you think I'm going to do, live in a tent?" It's the price of the field. The guy goes, "Not today, it ain't." He walks out the door. He walks down the corner. He gets about a block and a half away before his mind starts focusing again on that incredible treasure that he saw in the field. And he's just there leaning against an old brick building, you know. And he finally comes to the conclusion that if that house is the thing that stood between him and that treasure, that house is going to be the most desolate place on the planet. And who wouldn't want to unload the most desolate place on the planet? So he slinks back to the owner of the field. He says, "Yo, remember me? You know, I've been thinking about relocating. You can have my house too." And the owner says, "Good, that's the price of the field. What else you got?" "Man, I'm tapped out. I mean, outside of a little vacation time." He goes, "Oh, you got some vacation time? How am I supposed to give you my 2 weeks vacation? I work hard all year for those 2 weeks vacation time. You can't have that. Come on." "Hey, it's the price of the field." The guy is starting to feel a little dizzy. I mean, you know, he's sitting there for a while thinking, what in the world have I gotten into? But then, sort of out of that haze, there comes a real bright light, and it's that treasure in the field. It occurs to him, if those 2 weeks vacation time is the thing that stood between him and that treasure, those was going to be the 2 most emptiest weeks of his life. So he says to the owner of the field, "Okay, you can have my 2 weeks vacation time too. I'm not sure how, but okay." The owner, he smiles and says, "Good. We're making some headway here. Tell me, what else you got?" He says, "Hey, you tell me. I mean, really." He goes, "Well, how'd you get here?" He says, "You're kidding. You want my car? What do you think I'm going to do? Walk to work? Walk to this field? You're out of your mind. You can't have my car." He goes, "Hey, it's the price of the field." The guy backs out real slow and cautious like. I mean, you know what I mean? He gets out there and he's thinking, "Man, we got a big, serious attitude problem here." But as soon as he projects that on the owner of the field, you know, the treasure comes back to him again in his head. He just can't shake that incredible vision of that treasure in the field. See, some of you is tracking with me now. He finally occurs to him that if that car is the thing that stood between him and that treasure, he ain't got no place to go, no how. He comes back to the owner of the field, and he pulls out his car keys. He says, "Hey, here it is. It's a convertible down the street. That's what it costs for the field." Man, I don't know what I'm going to tell my girl. The owner of the field says, "You got a girl?" It's the price of the field. "Not today, not next month. It's a very special lady in my life. I have big plans for her. Back when I had $5,035, I was thinking about taking a 2-week vacation to Bahamas with this woman. Can't have her." Go in the field. He don't say nothing. He don't have to say nothing. I know his lines. That's the price of the field. Guy walks around. He walks around for a long time. Finally, he finds himself sitting on a park bench, mumbling to himself. Because whenever his mind starts to clear, all he sees is that treasure in the field. And ladies, I don't want to insult you, but he comes to this conclusion. That special lady is the thing that stands between him and that treasure. That relationship that they share don't have no chance at all. It's going to dry up and blow away. 2 of them is just going to drag each other down for the rest of their lives. He goes back to the owner of the field. And he says, "Okay, you can have my lady too." He says, "Look, I've been a businessman long enough to know there's something else going on. What's the bottom line here? What are you really looking for?" And the owner of the field, he looks him over from top to bottom. He says, "What about you?" He goes, "Hey, what about me?" He says, "Hey, it's the price of the field." Hey, I mean, slavery went on. He says, No, we're talking slavery. It's the price of the field. The guy just goes numb all the way down through his legs. But his mind, it keeps going back to that treasure on the field. And he finally comes to the conclusion that if being his own person keeps him from having that treasure, he ain't got nothing worthwhile. So he says to the owner of the field, he says, okay, I got no idea how we can arrange this, but you could have me too. And the owner of the field, he says, good. The field, it's yours. And the treasure in the field, you don't think I know nothing about? That's yours too. And the guy says, whoopee. This day had not gone exactly the way he had hoped it would go. He starts to walk out. I mean, he's dragging kind of low. Puts his hand on the doorknob and starts to walk out the door, and the previous owner of the field clears his voice. And the guy just shakes all over. He goes, hey, there's one more thing. He says, I thought there might be. Just one more thing. He says, you know that $5,000? He says, yeah, I have very fond memories of that $5,000. $35. He says, frankly, I own the cattle on 1,000 hills. Money is not a problem for me. I'm so glad to hear that for you. I can understand why that might be the case. And listen, you know your stereo, your quadraphonic stereo? He said, yeah. I can still hear the echo of it in my brain. He said, frankly, I got this choir. I can't imagine nobody ever turning your stereo on. And your color TV? I don't even think we could find some place to plug that in. And your house, I'm sure it's a nice house. I don't want to insult you, but frankly, your whole house would fit on the shelf in a closet of the poorest servants' quarters in my neighborhood. And your 2 weeks vacation time? I don't think you're really going to get this, but time is really not a problem where I come from. And your car, I'm sure it's a fun means of transportation. We got other ways of getting around. Frankly, I think your car would just sit and rust. So now listen real close to me. If I decide I want you to do something different with that $5,035, I don't want you to get all tight-fisted with me, because you see it ain't yours. If I decide that you should listen to something else on your stereo, or heaven forbid, you should turn it down, that's going to be okay too, because you see it ain't your stereo. If I decide you should watch something else on your TV, or nothing at all, I don't want you should hold your breath, turn purple, and pout, because you see it ain't yours. If I decide that somebody else should come and share your home with you, I don't want you following them around and taking over ownership of something that ain't yours. If I decide that you should do something worthwhile with your 2 weeks vacation time, I expect you to smile and get on the program. Because you see, it ain't your time neither. Listen. If I decide that somebody should borrow your car, and they should take your car, and they should kiss a tree with your car, I don't want you to entertain no thoughts about kissing them. Because you see, it ain't your car. If I decide that that young lady is not the right person for you to share your life with, you're going to have to let her go and trust me. Because you see, ultimately, she's not yours either. If I decide years from now that I want to take your wife and your children to be with me, you're going to have to accept that. Because you see, they aren't yours. Listen. If you get in some kind of accident, you break your neck, you're paralyzed from the neck down, you spend the last 25 years of your life with an iron lung, it's going to be okay. Because you see, you're mine. I'm the one who's going to take care of you. Don't you see what's happened here? He finally got him to pry loose his hands from all the things of the world. As long as his hands was filled with all the things of the world, he had no chance at all of ever grabbing hold of the things of eternity. For the first time in his life, he was really free. He was really poor in spirit. He only had one place to go. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man discovered and hid, and from joy over it went and sold all that he had.